All right, Steven, let's head to the tight end position. As you just mentioned, you like the tight end position. You have some thoughts here. First tight end selected is the first market we get to where there is at least a little bit of ambiguity here. Michael Mayer and Dalton Kincaid are almost neck and neck. If you're looking for first tight end selected in this market, there are varying mock drafts out there that have these guys flip-flopping all over the place. What say you?
Well, I can pinpoint exactly what's happened here with the tight end market because a week ago, Dalton Kincaid was like minus 200 to be the first tight end taken. And then Lance Zierlein goes on the ETR podcast and says that there might be some red flags with his weight and not being able to work out for teams during this draft process. And then all of a sudden, Mayer flips to, like minus 170 to be the first tight end taken. But since that happened, there's now been a little bit more buyback on Kincaid to be the first tight end. So it really just depends on if you think teams are going to take Kincaid off of their board in the first round based on health issues. I can tell you Daniel Jeremiah still has him as his number one tight end. I can tell you that Pete Schrager still had him mocked as the first tight end off the board. What's more interesting to me are the markets around this, because typically you have that hook, right? On these over-unders, Matt, it's always going to be 2.5, 3.5, never just an even number. It's interesting to me that DK has the number at 2, which gives you push equity. So it's crazy juice. It's minus 450. But if Kincaid and Mayer go in the first round, you're going to at least get your money back. And I do think there's a very good chance that 3 tight ends go in the first round. Or if Kincaid is taken off the board, there's been a steady drumbeat of Darnell Washington being a first-round tight end here with how weak the wide receiver class is. So if you don't want to lay that juice on over 2 tight ends at minus 450, you can just take Darnell Washington at even money to be a first-round pick in this draft. He as well is a top 25 overall grade by Jeremiah, mocked by Schrager, and another mock drafter I respect who's been one of the more accurate ones in the country in recent years. Ryan McChrystal also has Darnell Washington going in the first round. And that's interesting to me because, I'll just give you a couple more examples about where Schrager has been right, where it's kind of come out of left field. He was on the Trayvon Walker to number 1 before the odds moved. He was on Ekwonu as the first offensive lineman off the board. He had Pitts in the top 5. The 2 that stood out to me the most, Zaven Collins really wasn't on anybody's radar to be a first-round pick, and he had Zaven Collins not only in the first round, but going to Arizona, which is what he did. And he was also one of the first to have Henry Ruggs mocked to be the first wide receiver over Jerry Jeudy in 2020. So this is very interesting to me on the steady flow of information about Darnell Washington being in the mix for the first round.
Yeah, if we take a look here, I have, certain mock drafts that I kind of go in and just, kind of get the consensus of what's going on in those. And if we look from a Darnell Washington standpoint, guys that I respect, the only problem I see is the guys that do have him going in the first round. It's like 29th. Right? It's like 29th. It's like 30th. It's stuff like that. So it's like you are walking the razor's edge, right? Because as you mentioned, there's one less pick in the first round this year. Mm-hmm. So it is like you are really, really kind of walking the wire there to have him go in the first round, because it's every good mocker out there that even does have him going in the first. It's like one of the last 2 or 3 picks in the first round. And so that's at least a little scary from a betting standpoint. But
so let me ask you this then. Do you think there's any way that only 1 tight end is drafted in the first round?
I do, if people are really and truly concerned about this Kincaid stuff. Like, okay. And we have seen guys, and Steven, this is one of the things too, is where we just kind of have to listen to the buzz and see if it is actual truth to it or if it's just noise or something. But every single year, this very, very well, anyone that's bet this year and year, we will hear about a guy, and it won't be today, probably be like Monday of next week, that it's like, oh, by the way, he has medical issues. Like we hear every single year, and it happens to 1 or 2 different guys, and sure as hell, they fall. Like, in maybe not all the way out of the first round, but like there is like drastic fall in these guys. And it happens every single year. I'm not saying it will happen this year, but it basically every year someone gets something leaked on a Monday or Tuesday, and they'll come out and say like, uh-oh, hearing player XYZ has some medical issues, blah, 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 blah. And we're already starting to hear that a little bit with Kincaid. And that has me a little bit scared that some of these teams are going to look and say, man, investing a first round pick in this guy, even though the upside we think is great, what if we, if he's beat up from the get go, we might never see that upside. And so there is that. He is one of the guys that I have my ear to the ground on over the next few days than just about anybody else out there, because I think that there will be some money to be made one way or another on Kincaid, but basically either his over under, which by the way is set at 24.5 at the majority of the books out there. And then also too, just from the will he even go in the first round type deal.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely need to listen up on him. This would be, if he falls out of the first round, that would be the biggest plummet of the first round, in my opinion, because he was one of the top 15 players just strictly by grade in this class. So if he plummets that far, that would be something else.
Yeah, it'd be super interesting. But again, we will do all that we can to keep you guys updated whenever we take a look at how this all, how this is all going to shake out here.